begin the class. Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Bol Premanandi.
Hari Hari Bol.
Okay, so we're going to read from the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the primary texts in Krishna consciousness, and then we'll have some discussion based upon that. We'll just see how we go from there. We say this mantra, this prayer at the beginning, just to offer our respects to the Supreme, and also so we can tune ourselves in to get the most from our time and our discussion together. So please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we're going to read from the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and we'll read text number 15. So this chapter is entitled The Yoga of the Supreme Person. Okay. So I'll read the Sanskrit, which is the original language in which the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, and then the translation. The purple is quite long, so we'll read some of the purple, if that's okay, and then we'll discuss based upon that. So this is Krishna speaking to Arjuna. So the Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between two individuals, and in this conversation, so much about the nature of life, so much about ourselves, and how we can be more happy and truly fulfilled becomes more revealed in this way. So, Krishna speaking to Arjuna. Vasya jaham ridishani vishto mata smiti jnanam apohanam cha vedescha save ahameva vedyo vedanta krit veda vid eva chaham. Translation. I'm seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Jai Shri Jagannath Desubhadra Maharani ki jai, Shri Gaunitai ki jai, Shri Guru ki jai, Janitai Gopinandi. So, I'll read the translation again. So Krishna, in his conversation with Arjuna, and this conversation is taking place on the battlefield, he is saying the following. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. The purple is by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivendanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Supreme Lord is situated as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and it is from Him that all activities are initiated. The living entity forgets everything of his past life, but he has to act according to the direction of the Supreme Lord, who is witness to all his work. Therefore, he begins his work according to his past deeds. Required knowledge is supplied to him, and remembrance is given to him, and he forgets also about his past life. Thus the Lord is not only all-pervading, he is also localized in everyone's individual heart. He awards the different fruitive results. He is worshipable not only as the impersonal Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the localized Paramatma, but as the form of the incarnation of the Vedas as well. The Vedas give the right direction to people so that they can properly mold their lives and come back to Godhead, back to home. The Vedas offer knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and Krishna, in his incarnation as Vyasadeva, is the compiler of the Vedanta Sutra. The commentation on the Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam gives the real understanding of Vedanta Sutra. The Supreme Lord is so full that for the deliverance of the conditioned soul, he is the supplier and digester of foodstuff, the witness of his activity, and the giver of knowledge in the form of Vedas and as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, the teacher of the Bhagavad Gita. He is worshipable by the conditioned soul. Thus, God is all good, God is all merciful. Jnanatamurandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapatikamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Virjana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, in this verse of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is talking about his position. And he's talking about where he is in relation to every one of us. So he explains that he's sitting inside our hearts. The heart's a very special place. It's the seat of our emotions and our experiences. In fact, the heart is the soundtrack of our experience. So in the morning when we wake up, and throughout our daily lives, and at night time when we go to sleep, we have an experience of life. But that experience of life, it's enhanced by a soundtrack. Just like when you go to the movies and you see a film and there's a soundtrack of that film, right? There's a musical composition that accompanies the movie. And what does that musical composition do? It brings out the emotion and the experience. Just like when you eat some food, the spices, the salt and the pepper, they enhance the experience. We also have an emotional narrative, an emotional soundtrack that brings out the flavor of our day-to-day experiences. Our lives and the quality of our lives are deeply defined by how we experience them and the emotions they invoke. Every one of us are actually looking for the supreme relationship. Every one of us are looking for the supreme experience. And from the moment we wake up to the moment that we go to sleep, we're in a deep search for a superior experience. Can anyone relate to that? Sometimes you buy a new car, or you buy a new phone, or you go to a different country, you go to a different occupation. All of these things are a search that we all have for a superior experience. Sometimes we experience something that is pleasurable. Sometimes we experience something that is painful. Can anyone relate to that? Yeah. But the search for that superior experience always goes on. It's a very, very deep search. And that deep search practically defines our entire lives. Krishna consciousness is an offering in this search, right? Just like you say that you are searching for something, right? So we search for something. Literally, we do research for something. We go to one place to another place looking for a superior experience. Now, the next factor is that we are defined by our experiences. There's something called samskar. Has anyone ever been in a bad relationship before? Raise your hand. Okay, interesting. There's this idea of samskar, that every time we experience something, it leaves an impression on our hearts. You understand? There's a saying, maybe you have it here as well, once bitten, twice shy. Anyone heard that before? Okay. So there's a saying that when you have an experience that's negative, you think twice about going in that direction in the future. You understand? So in the material world, everyone has that feeling, once bitten, twice shy, in relation to love. Everyone has that in relation to love, because people have given their hearts before in a relationship and they found some disappointment. Every time you give your heart in a relationship and you find some disappointment, the next time you become more cautious about giving that heart again. Some people in the world, if you could see them subtly, you could see they don't have very much heart left, because they gave their heart somewhere, it was broken. What they had left was less than they gave before. Gave their heart somewhere, it was broken again. Less before, so there's very little heart that is left. And that heart is a symbol of our trust. It's not just a symbol of our trust in other people. The amount of heart that's left is a symbol of our trust, our degree of trust in life itself. Is there such a thing as a superior experience? So there are many people who are bitter, many people who are resentful, and they were very good people, very kind people, very open people, who openly gave their heart, and their heart wasn't treated properly. So some of the most negative people you see in the world were originally some of the most positive individuals, but they had their hearts broken. And therefore you see this narrative, this longing is there in every culture. Wherever you go in the world, whatever you do, you will hear songs. Songs of longing, songs of a desire to find a superior experience and to find a perfect relationship. When you listen to the charts or the radio, it's always a love song, isn't it? It's always a love song. And usually it's always an unhappy love song, which is very interesting. Usually it's an unhappy love song. there's a very interesting secret that the Bhagavad Gita gives us. And this verse is giving a secret as to how we can be happy beyond our belief. In this verse, Krishna is explaining that he's inside our hearts. Yeah? So, Vasyachaham Ridishani Vishto Mata Smriti Gyanam Apohanam Cha. He's saying that he's in our hearts. Now, this means something very, very powerful. We, both you and I, have been together for millions of lifetimes in this material world, according to the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. Some people believe in reincarnation, some people don't believe in reincarnation. Actually, the Bhagavad Gita is not a belief system. It's very interesting. The Bhagavad Gita is not a belief system, because the teachings of the Vedas being one of the oldest literatures on the planet, the teachings of the Vedas are not something that is meant to be believed. When we watch the TV, when we listen to different conversations in the workplace and in other environments, we often have people speaking about their belief in God, their belief in religion. But the Bhagavad Gita is something very, very different. Because your belief will not sustain you. You understand? If I believe in food, I will still die if I do not experience the food. You understand? If I believe in a job, but I do not go to the job and do not work, I will not receive the salary, the payment for my work. Belief will not sustain anyone. Ladies and gentlemen, what we are searching for is a superior experience. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Adi Atma Vidya Vidyanam. He says that of sciences, I am the science of self-realization. Your experience of God, your experience of a higher dimension in life, that will sustain you. I was reflecting on my own life. I was reflecting on my own life recently, and I was trying to understand what is the fundamental mistake that I make in life. And I had this flash internally. And what I was seeing was that the real difference between those who are spiritually fulfilled, those who are happy from the inside out, and the rest of the world was based upon one single factor. And as I was reflecting, it became more and more clear that there's one single factor that determines those people who are deeply fulfilled and happy, and who carry that light of love in their day-to-day experience. You meet people like that sometimes, deeply spiritual people, and you see that there's an inner glow to the individual. Right? You see that they're carrying an inner glow, and the glow is so bright it spills through the individual. That inner glow is based upon living in a superior experience. What I saw when I reflected, what is that mistake that I make when I don't really understand how to be truly fulfilled? And the mistake was, it became very clear to me, the mistake was my approach to life. So I saw my heart, I saw myself in my heart, and I saw myself walking away from my heart out towards the world. And as I reflected on it, more became clear to me. More became clear to me. I realized that actually there are two ways to live life. Two ways. And walking away from the heart is the way that the majority of people live their lives. We're situated in the heart with God. He says this. I'm seated in the heart of everyone. But for the majority of us, we walk away from our hearts. I look out to the world and I think this world is going to make me happy. I can see things shining, I can see things moving, and I'm fascinated by all of these things. So I walk away from my heart towards the world. And I try to experience the things of this world as the ultimate source of my happiness. And when I do this, I do get something. We want to be very honest here in this discussion. There's an interesting Sanskrit term which is chapala sukha, which means that the happiness of the world is there, but it's flickering. It's flickering. So it lasts for a short period. It seems to promise so much, and as I get involved, it just disappears. It's flickering. So when I walk away from my heart, I experience the flickering happiness of this world at best. Because sometimes the happiness is flickering, sometimes the happiness is not even there at all. And in the vision, what I saw was that there was an alternative for me. So Krishna revealed there's another way to live your life. There's another way to live your life. There's an alternative way. A way that most people have never even considered and most people are not aware of. This Krishna consciousness teaching is incredible. Why is it incredible? It's incredible for a number of reasons. One reason being that actually we don't have an issue with the world. We don't actually have an issue with the world. The teachings of Krishna in this Bhagavad Gita is that the world is not a problem if you approach the world in the right way. So when I reflected, I saw the way I live, the way I normally do things, my outer orientation. I'm always trying to go out to the world, walking away from my heart. And what Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita here, he's saying you can have a greater experience of life if instead of walking out from the heart, you walk in the opposite direction. In the teachings of Krishna consciousness, what we are inviting everyone to test, not to believe, by the way, not to believe, but to test, to try, to experience, is to walk internally. There's a way of living your life where you walk into your heart. And when an individual walks into their heart, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai, Shri Gauri ki jai. There's another way to live your life. And if an individual tests or tries this new way of living your life, this new way of orienting yourself, you will find that magic happens. You will find that magic happens. Krishna is encouraging us, make an experiment. Try to walk into your heart, towards the Supreme Lord in the heart. Now you may think, well, what about the world outside? Because the world looks so amazing, so exciting, so stimulating. When you take this approach, which is being given here, when you take the journey inside, you will encounter something absolutely mystical and extraordinary. Krishna is not only within your heart, but Krishna is in the heart of every single atom of this material world. So when an individual learns this one secret, taking a walk within, right? A walk into their heart, coming closer and closer to Krishna, you'll find that as we get closer to Krishna, because he's within our heart, and because he's within every single atom, as you come closer to Krishna, you actually come closer and deeply connected to everything. This is the magic and the mystery of these spiritual teachings. In the modern world, most people feel disconnected. Okay? That is also why you see everywhere around the world, you see this political issue and things are becoming polarized. You notice that? That people are going to extremes in one direction or the other direction. And the world does not know what to do. People have different views. The world does not know what to do. People often have conflicts. The world does not know what to do. It becomes one group versus another group because people have not learned this mystery, this secret of how to walk on the inside. When I make a journey within, inside towards Krishna within my own heart, what happens? Krishna is the source of everything. Savasya chaham ridishani vishtoma tasmiti jnanamapohanam cha. He's within the heart. And aham savasya pravavo mata savam pravartate. Iti matva bhajante mam Bhuta Bhavana Prabhu. Everything is coming from him. So the mystical reality is that when I walk inside and when I come closer to Krishna, I come closer to the source of everything. I come closer to the root of everything. Now, let's take it a step further. Because I'm coming closer to Krishna and he's the source of everything, I'm now deeply connected through Krishna with everyone. When I'm closer to Krishna, I'm deeply connected with everyone in the deepest way. Think about this carefully. He's in every atom, he's in everyone's heart. And I'm close to him, so now I'm close to everyone. Just like everyone, just like in the workplace, you have a professional network, right? How many of you on LinkedIn, anyone? Okay, so you have your professional network, right? Then you look at another side. How many of you are on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, anyone? Okay, so you also have your social network. Krishna-consciousness is the spiritual network. You understand? By coming closer to Krishna, you actually develop a deep transcendental connection with everything and everyone in the entire creation. In other words, you feel deeply connected, not only to yourself, but to everyone in a very, very deep way. We become connected to the deepest humanity of each and every individual at all times, in all places, in all circumstances. This is the magic and the mystery of Krishna consciousness. It is all about the inner journey. Krishna consciousness is the inner orientation. I'm going to say something to you in this room. And it's something that I guarantee to be true, although I've not asked all of you. I guarantee you that in this room, while we have, let's say, 40 or so people in the room, all sitting down together, all listening to this class together, all in front of these deities together, I can guarantee you that while we're discussing this, there'll be people in the room right now who feel alone. You're in a room full of other people, but you feel alone. We go out to the world, I can guarantee you there'll be people who have wealth, millions, pounds, euros, whatever it is, and they feel an inner sense of poverty. We go out into the world and we will find people, you look at their Instagram, their Facebook, whatever it is, you'll see them in pictures smiling with so many other people, their so-called friends, and they feel that no one understands them. Because we're going in the wrong direction. The way to feel a deep sense of connection and fulfillment is to make the inner journey. And when we make the inner journey, you will find that you come out the other side connected to everyone and everything. This is the magic and the mystery of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, the person who practices this type of spiritual life is living life from the inside out. You understand? Living life from the inside, going inside to come out the other side, fully connected to everyone and everything. The deepest longing that we have in our hearts is that longing to give and to receive love. And because we've been so disappointed in that journey, for most of us on this planet, we've shut this down because it's so painful to find that I can't do this. Wherever I try to give this love, it never turns out the way that I want it to. Let me just shut down the endeavor than to continually live a life of disappointment. But there's a way that we can do this where we will not be disappointed. And that is what is being given here. So the way to practice this inner orientation, and it is a practice, it's not something that happens like this. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's the greatest and most fulfilling journey anyone can make. The way to live life from the inside out is to practice the spiritual practice of calling upon the names of God and hearing the teachings of the Supreme Person. Every time we practice this, you are making the inner journey to come to the source of everything. And by connecting to the source of everything, you're automatically becoming deeply and lovingly connected to everything and everyone. Now just think about what this means practically. Practically. Someone in this lifestyle, in this depth of spirituality, in this practice, they wake up and day to day, everyone they meet, they feel a deep sense of love and family and connection with everyone. An intense sense of love for everyone and for everything, because they become deeply spiritually connected. To the point that in their day-to-day life, they are inspired, moved, and motivated by their love for everyone, because they've fallen in love again with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is a state of blissful life and experience that every one of us can taste ourselves if we make that journey. Again, the magic and the mystery of Krishna consciousness. By chanting the names of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You are making that inner journey, that deep connection. And that inner journey is so much needed at this time. It's so much needed at this time. Because if we don't make the inner journey and we stay on the surface of life, you find that there's always a superficiality. Because when you remain on the surface, you don't go deep, your happiness doesn't become deep. And second, when I'm on the surface, I can't deeply relate to the heart of another person, because I'm only superficially connected with myself. You understand? If I want a deep connection with others, I have to have a deep connection with myself first. And therefore, that is the thing that is lacking practically in the lives of so many people at this time, and maybe some of us in this room too, to be very honest. Maybe some of us in this room at this time as well. I was reflecting on a situation. I was reflecting on how you can have very, very good people and they don't like each other and they're in conflict. and one person wants one thing and the other person wants the opposite, and it seems like they both can't have what they want. I disagree. When I look at Krishna consciousness and this idea of going deep, I started to understand, no, life isn't like that. Life is only like that on the surface. But when we start to go deep, we find that one person wants this, another person wants something different. But when we start to ask the question, why do you want this? When we start to go beneath the surface, we start to come to the fact that everyone has certain universal needs. Right? So someone said, I want to be promoted in my job. Right? They said, I want to get promoted in my job. And because you didn't promote me, I'm going to leave the job. But when you start to look beneath it, you find that the promotion is just an external sign. What they're really looking for beneath this is they're looking to feel recognized. Because if you promote me, it shows me that you recognize how hard I'm working, you appreciate me. You go deeper and deeper and deeper behind everything that everyone's looking for in this world. You find that there's some deeper underlying need. And when you go deepest into the underlying need, it's no longer a need. It's a person. When you go deep, deep down, you find that it's not a need. They are looking for a person. They're looking for a person who's going to love and accept them at all times, in all places, all circumstances, unconditionally. So our need has a name. And that name is Krishna, the all-attractive person. When we find a society, when we find people who go deep in this inner journey, they become the healers of society. Why? Because I can understand what you're asking for, and I can understand more deeply why you want it. What's the need behind the request? I can understand this person wants something else. I can understand the need behind the request. I can see, yes, we have these universal needs. So you are my brother and sister because we have the same ultimate needs and desires. And that need has a name. That need has a name. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The need to give and to receive love unconditionally. So we want to encourage you to try this. And even many of you are people who are practicing Krishna consciousness, but there's always a deeper level of practice, a deeper way to go. Try this as an experiment, to consciously live life from the inside out, to go on the inner journey. Right? There was a song years ago, Take a Walk on the Wild Side. I'm not sure if it ever came to Germany. What we're suggesting to you is take a walk on the inside. Take a walk on the inside. As you go on this inner journey, you will find this fantastic sense of connection and understanding of everyone beneath the surface. Because when you come to the roots, you automatically are connected to everything. So when I was reflecting on this, I also had this image of a tree. And I had this image of a mango tree. Anyone like mangoes? Yeah. Okay, we're all on the same page. Universal needs. Now you understand what I'm talking. And I was imagining, you can do two things with the mango tree. You can go and just take the fruit of the branches. But that fruit, all the delicious taste, the form of it, everything about the fruit is being nourished by the root of the tree. You understand? It's the actual root of the tree that's giving all the characteristics of the fruit which is hanging from the branches. So actually, all the nourishment is coming ultimately from the root. You and I, we have an amazing opportunity in this life to feel a tremendous and deep sense of connection, not just with ourselves, that's one thing, but with each and every person, situation and circumstance. It's like you're walking into a situation and you always feel that you're at home because the Supreme Person who's in your heart, in every single atom, is there wherever you go. It's so powerful and profound that we could forget that this is on offer. But this is what Krishna consciousness actually is. So by chanting the names of Krishna, you are making the internal journey sincerely. By discussing or hearing the teachings of Krishna, you are making that internal journey sincerely. By doing these things, you are going to develop a deep connection to everyone to the point that you actually love everyone, including yourself, in the most deep, profound, and consistent way, moment by moment by moment. Whether you are awake, whether you are asleep, it doesn't actually matter. People are looking for the perfect relationship. The trick of the world is to convince us that the perfect relationship is outside. No, the perfect relationship is inside, but we're walking in the wrong direction. We are often walking in the wrong direction. So we encourage you to test this. Not to believe it, because many people believe things which aren't true. Life itself has its own nature. Right? The material world is created a certain way. You and I, we are also made a certain way. Yeah? And we are built to love in a certain way. So, if you want to have a deep connection to yourself and to everyone else, if you want to experience an intense, ever-increasing variety of loving experiences in your day-to-day life, not when you die, right? Not when you leave your body. I mean now. We encourage you to take this internal journey, consciously and deeply, to take this internal journey, and you will be amazed at what you experience, because this is not my idea. This is what is being stated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's not our idea. There are two things in life: blind faith and blind doubt. That people reject something even when they haven't even tried or experienced it. These two things: blind faith, blind doubt. So we're trying to suggest, don't have blind faith in this. That would be unintelligent. But don't have blind doubt, where you assume it's not true, because if it is true, the gain that you will have is absolutely extraordinary. The gain that we will have is absolutely extraordinary. And in the example of the founder of this movement, we saw that. So Srila Prabhupada, the question comes, how is it that this person who looks like an old Indian male, let's be very honest, how is it that this person who looks like an old Indian male can attract people from every race, every culture, every nationality, every gender, not just when he was on the planet, but to this day they're still being attracted? It is because of his deep connection with anyone and everyone. I was thinking that when one becomes more connected to the source of everything, even sometimes, maybe some of you have experienced this, you meet someone and you feel like you know that person, right? You feel like, oh, we've met before, we're friends, right? And often it's because you had a rendezvous in the heart beforehand. Krishna introduced you, so-and-so, this is so-and-so. You guys are friends before, right? In this verse it talks about that. Krishna, he reminds us, he remembers what we did in our past life. Yeah? Let's see. Required knowledge is supplied to him, and remembrance is given to him, and he forgets also about his past life. So sometimes you meet someone and you feel, oh, this is familiar. I feel like we've had this communication before. I feel like we've known each other before. It's because you've been you've been introduced again by Krishna. This was your friend from a previous life. The magic and the mystery is available to everyone. And people need that even more than we've ever needed it before. Because otherwise, if we live a life on the surface, you will never feel that the deep happiness that the soul, that the heart is always desiring. So we'll stop there. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Janitai Gaur Premanandi. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, Mangala.
So I think this is probably a beginner's mistake, but it happens to me also often that sometimes I go on this inner journey and then I'm like, okay, I don't want to come out again. But I have to come out because I have to go to work so maybe can you elaborate on that? What the cause is and how to avoid?
Sure. So the inner journey, if it's done with depth and also with understanding, the inner journey takes us through to everything. The inner journey can be done even while we are relating to others outside. So it's very interesting. When you meet someone, there are certain things about your behavior that you can't control. Okay? There's certain things about your behavior when you meet someone that happen outside of your conscious control. For example, if you meet someone that you find attractive, your pupils get bigger. Right? You've heard that before? Anyone? And it's not that you think, okay, let me expand my pupils. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. It's actually something that's beyond your control. Okay? So when we meet people, our consciousness, our mentality, it's actually being displayed through our conscious behavior, but it's also being shown through our unconscious behavior, and you can't control it. Interesting. You can't fully control it. So what happens is, if a person develops a deep love for others, which is a byproduct of developing their relationship with God, with Krishna, when you meet people, you actually naturally have a deeper appreciation and love for them. It's not something that you consciously control. It's happening automatically. But that journey is practiced. It's practiced by going inside, but it's also practiced by my mentality when I deal with everyone and anyone. You understand? So I'm practicing my Krishna consciousness by how I deal with you properly, knowing that you are also carrying Krishna in the heart. You see? I go and I meet you, and I know that Krishna is in your heart. He's in my heart as well. So the inner journey goes on even when I'm dealing with you outside, if I deal with you and Krishna properly. Yeah? The inner journey always goes on if I deal with you and Krishna properly. The Krishna who's in my heart and the Krishna who's in your own heart as well. The biggest hypocrisy that you often see is if I claim to deal with Krishna properly in my heart, but I ignore Krishna in yours. It means my inner journey isn't so deep. But when my inner journey is very deep, I'm dealing with Krishna properly in whichever heart he is approaching me from. So in your day-to-day life, in your workplace, in your home dealings, you can still go on the inner journey. When I chant, I'm taking the inner journey towards the Lord in my heart. When I speak to others, I'm also taking the inner journey because I'm speaking to the Krishna who's in their hearts. I'm showing respect to them and dealing with them, knowing that the inner journey, I'm making my words clear because it's going towards the Krishna who's also in their heart. Everywhere Krishna is. He's in every single atom, and he's in every single person. Even the person you don't like, you know. He's there. So there's no time and there's no situation where we cannot go on the inner journey. Other question, yes?
So I think it was really enlightening what you said about how, you know, people or we become bitter because we can't find the love, and love in this material world. Can you say a little bit about self-love? Because if Krishna is in my heart, then why don't I love myself?
Wonderful point. So what happens is, while we are in the heart, and while Krishna is in the heart, our understanding of ourselves is covered. Yeah? So imagine that you're standing in a cave. Okay? Imagine you're standing in a cave and you're covered by so much dust which has been covering you for a long time. Right? Sometimes you see, like you read about archaeology and they find bodies, old bodies, and it's covered by layers of earth. Right? So it's hard to even see, unless you get rid of all the layers, you can't even see it's a person's body. So we are like that. We're in the heart, but we're covered by so many layers. But what's very interesting is that Krishna is also in the heart, and Krishna's like fire. So imagine that deeper in the cave, there's a person who is like fire. Now, the moment I start to walk towards the fire, that fire starts to burn away everything that's covering me. And as it's burning away everything that's covering me, as I go closer to the fire, to the person who's like fire, all the covering starts to come off. And I look, and I can actually start to see who I actually am and what I actually am. So when we make the inner journey, actually, we start to become more self-aware. And to love yourself, we also need to know who we are. You see, that's the point. For me to love myself, I actually need to know myself. There's a story, maybe you have this also, of the ugly duckling. And it's a childhood story about this so-called ugly duckling who was being rejected by these other ducks. And he was constantly trying to be accepted. You know, I'd like to be your friend. No, we want to have nothing to do with you. Until one day that so-called ugly duck found out that he was a swan. And we are in the same situation. We're in the same situation. So the Bhagavad Gita also helps us to understand, who am I? Dehinosmin yata dehi kumranyovanam jara tata deyantara praptir diratatrayum namuyate. We're not the body, first of all. We have a body. We use the body. We have many different bodies. We've had different bodies in different lifetimes. Sometimes a male body, sometimes a female body, sometimes a German body, whichever type, English body, whatever type of body, but we're not the body. But it's our vehicle in the world. So who am I? The body changes, grows old, etc. But we're the soul. Jivera Srupoy Krishna and Nityadas. More specifically, I'm a servant of Krishna. And in the process of loving him, rendering service, trying to chant the names of Krishna, I will start to understand more and more about who I am, what I need, and I'll get that self-love in that way. That's on a very spiritual level. I also want to address a more practical, well, not more practical, both are practical, but a more immediate level. The immediate level is that there is also another level of expressing love and affection. And that comes as I make that inner journey with others who are also on the inner journey, who encourage me to make the inner journey properly. That is also another type of spiritually oriented love. So in order to keep on the journey, I must put myself in the association of other loving individuals who are also on the journey. Right? And by that activity, I develop also a deeper, more profound sense of self-love. In Ayurveda, which is an ancient system of health, it's explained that the way that the parents deal with the children really sends a message to the child about their self-worth. So when a child was growing up in an environment where the parents gave them time, attention, compassion, energy, all the parent is doing is sending a message to the child directly and indirectly, saying that you are valuable, you are important. In other words, you are loved. And the child who gets that from the parent, they go into the world thinking I'm important. It's a background way of thinking. They just carry that because that's what was shown to them. That's the message that was given to them in their childhood. That culture, to be honest, is breaking down in this age. Parents don't know how to give time and attention, so it's, I'll leave my child in front of the television and I'll do something else. So the message, they don't do it deliberately, hopefully in most cases, but the message that they're sending is that I've got something more important to do than look after you. So something else is more important than you are. I was speaking to a very good friend of mine, very wonderful person, and he shared something with me which I thought was so extraordinary. He was talking about working on overcoming his need for his need for external validation. Isn't that interesting? He was working on overcoming his need for external validation. And when you look at social media or most things that most people do, it's coming from a need for external validation. If I don't value myself, I will spend my life begging you to like me. Isn't it? I will spend my whole life, please like me. I will do anything just so that you will say that I'm a good person, just so that you will like me. And to the extent that I may not even like myself. Right? It's no accident that in social media it's all about how many likes did you get. Right? How many people are telling you that you are how many people are telling you that you are worthwhile because you don't believe yourself that you are? Isn't it interesting? So Krishna consciousness is the opposite. That if we work on ourselves and make that inner journey, then actually the irony is even people will like you even more. Because people like people who like themselves. That's the irony of it all. People love people who love themselves. And if I love myself, then I can actually love other people. So again, it's included in that way. Through the association of loving, spiritually minded people who are also going on that inner journey. Because the more that we go on the inner journey, the more we access that love from the Lord. The more we access His love, the more that we can give love to others. In a deep way, because I'm now deeply connected to everyone, because I'm deeply connected to Krishna. Does that answer your question? Thank you for the question. Yes?
Thank you for the class. I also have a question, and it's about going the inner journey.
Yes.
Sometimes if we say, okay, I will go this journey, we have to attack our inner demons, our purifications. And sometimes it can be too much. And sometimes we just want to run away from this purification. Because everything is coming up, and sometimes you just don't know how to handle this. So maybe you have suggestions like this?
So there's two things. One is never go on the inner journey alone. That's the first one. So the point we made earlier, you go on the inner journey in the company of others who have gone on the inner journey. And so you'll have some people who are further on that journey than you are. You have some people who are at the same stage in the journey as you. And you have some people who are not so far on the inner journey. And as we go on the inner journey together, we can get the lessons and the guidance of the person who has passed those challenges. We can get the encouragement and the support of the person who's at the same stage as we are. And then we can share our lessons with someone before they get to that stage as well. Make sense? So that inner journey, the first thing is we do the inner journey together with others who are making the journey. The second thing is, to get the strength to do the inner journey, we don't do it on our own strength. When we're making the inner journey, it's also done with an attitude of getting help from Krishna and his associates, his friends. So if I want the strength to face my challenges, I can only do that if I'm asking for that strength. I'm taking advantage of that strength. That means having a guide or guru, having mentors, people who have been on that inner journey and they are further on, and then having the humble mood towards them. You know? We often think of this idea of taking help surrender as you have to give up. Surrender is just like a child who runs into the embrace of their mother. You've just become stronger because you've accepted the warm and loving embrace of that person. She's stronger than you. You've accepted her shelter, therefore now you are much stronger. So when we go on the inner journey in good association with the attitude and mood of surrender to a higher understanding, to Krishna, to his pure servants, the right people, the people who can give us the guidance to move through that challenge. If we have that mood of wise surrender to the right guides, you will find that even when you hit the challenges, you'll still remain excited to come through to a deeper level. And the guides are there in the books. They're there in the more advanced spiritual individuals who've been practicing Krishna consciousness. The strength is there in our prayer. The strength is there in the attentiveness with which we chant. The strength is even there in how we honor the food which has been offered to God. All of these things give us the strength to keep going on the inner journey. Does that answer your question? So take advantage of good association. If you always do things in good, strong, enthusiastic spiritual association, there is absolutely no test that you cannot pass. One other thing I should tell you. In that good association, you reveal your heart. You reveal the challenges that you're dealing with, and you get that guidance as to how to deal with that particular challenge. Okay. Thank you. Any other question? Yes?
You were saying we should still see Krishna in persons that treat us unfairly or that don't like us.
Yes.
But I think it's really difficult to, or I don't know how to react if someone is really...
Yeah. You don't have to necessarily deal with them, but you should understand that there's a higher purpose that's there. I've been doing this for a few years, right? For a few years, what I've been doing in any situation, I was mentioning to the devotees who invited us here. When we landed this morning, I said to them, I said that I feel that Krishna's brought me here for a reason. There's something I'm meant to learn. You know? And it is like that. The people who treat you nicely and the people who don't treat you nicely, they're all giving a lesson. If we are strong enough to accept that, wise enough, deep enough. If I'm not deep, I just see things on the surface, this person's giving me a hard time. If I can go beneath the surface, if I can go into that inner journey, I don't feel threatened when someone gives me a hard time. They may be giving me a hard time, but it's not the end of the story. There's a deeper gift, right? Some of the people that you know in life who are very strong, they're very strong because they went through a hard time. If they did not go through a hard time, they would not be anywhere near as strong. So Krishna, being the supreme lover of everyone, whatever situation that comes, it's a gift. If it's a positive experience or a negative experience, it's still a gift because we can grow from everything, isn't it? We can grow through the good times, and oftentimes, let's be very honest, in many cases, we grow even more when we go through challenges than when things are good, isn't it? Sometimes when things are good, yeah, I can take it easy, you know, so everything's okay, you know, I'm fine, I'm perfect, I don't need to change. You see that same person who's going to just be very laid back when things are good, if a challenge comes on, he will change. But there's a bit more to it. I've seen in my own life, Krishna, when he wants me to do something, he'll try and tell me nicely first. Isn't it? Prabhu, I think you need to change this. Let's be honest, right? He just because he doesn't like giving people a hard time. So he'll tell you nicely, Prabhu, you know what, that's not really correct. You know? And then I don't listen. So then he tells me a bit like, Prabhu, Prabhu, that's not good, don't do that. I don't listen. So then he has to send someone to give me a hard time. Isn't it? So you say, I don't like that person, but he told you twice already you didn't listen. That's why he sent that person. So the real trick is, if we learn to listen to Krishna, he's so kind. I mean He doesn't like giving people a hard time. I've seen it. He just like, Prabhu, just maybe change this. Just one small thing. It's only because I don't listen that it becomes a bit more of a difficult situation. It's so amazing. And that person who's giving you a hard time, there's still a gift from God. If we are able to look beneath the surface, why has my loving Lord Krishna allowed this person to come into my life? What is the gift he's trying to give me? It's that inner journey, the inner orientation. Krishna's even in their heart. They're giving me some gift. They're teaching me something. They're helping me to understand something. They're helping me to become more tolerant. They're helping me to become more patient. They're helping me to understand that different people think differently. They're helping me to deepen my conviction by challenging my conviction. It's always a gift. Now, the one thing I have to add to this, because otherwise people don't hear this properly, it doesn't mean you put your head in the lion's mouth. Some people whose behavior are negative, you learn from it, but you don't have to put yourself in difficulty unnecessarily. You just try to learn. You see? Sometimes I know devotees who had difficult situations, difficult dealings with other devotees. And actually, the message Krishna wanted to show them, he was trying to tell them, yes, everyone is a devotee, but still, even though everyone is a devotee, you should choose your association wisely. That was his message. But they were like, oh, but they're a devotee, they're spiritual, I'm spiritual, we should just be friends with everyone. That's not what the Bhagavad Gita says. So, even though good people, bad people, good experiences, bad experiences are there, the question is, why is my loving Lord allowing me to experience this? What is the lesson he's trying to teach me? And in many cases, if I learn the lesson, then the situation changes and I don't even have to deal with some of those challenges in the future. It's always a compassionate desire on the part of Krishna to help me to grow and develop. Guaranteed. Absolutely guaranteed. What is the lesson that Krishna is trying to teach me through the situations that come into my life? And I'll add one last thing to this. One of the lessons that I've seen that Krishna wants to teach most people is that he's very clear on this. Krishna's thing is this: I don't want you to lead an aimless life in Krishna consciousness. Because I'm seeing that you are not consciously being dynamic in trying to reach out for higher association, I'm going to allow you to get people in your life who are going to kick you. Because then if they kick you, then you'll think, okay, I shouldn't be complacent, rather than just lying back and saying, Krishna, bring me all these pure devotees and good association. I will take it seriously enough that I will go looking for good association. So I've seen in most devotees' life, the reason why they get bad association is because they're lazy. And I'm not going to, if pure devotee comes, that's good. I'm not going to go looking for good association. I just do my own thing and Krishna should bring all the good association. He's like, no, that's wrong. That's the wrong attitude. You should pursue the good association. If you fill your life with good association, you leave very little space in your life for negative association to come in. Make sense? But if I just see what happens, then what happens is, usually, because most of the world is negative, my life space will be taken up with lots of negative association because I'm not proactively looking to find and associate with good association. It's like that. Okay, it's a bit of a long answer, but I hope I answered your question. Yeah. Thank you. Do I have more time, or what's the situation? Can I take more questions, or should I stop? Is time? Okay, so thank you very much. Forgive me for not answering the last few questions, but thank you for those that were shared. I learned a lot in that sharing also. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Gaur Premanandi.
Den Wunsch habt, morgen noch mehr Fragen zu stellen oder euch noch andere Dinge auf dem Herzen brennen, die ihr fragen möchtet, ihr habt morgen die Gelegenheit, um 10 Uhr haben wir hier ein
ein Programm im Tempel mit den beiden, wo ihr gerne herzlich eingeladen seid und sie löchern könnt nach Herzensbitten.
Genau, also wir hatten erst ein bestimmtes Thema angekündigt.